Hi, this is Joby Provido, and you're listening to Contemplating the Rosary, where we talk about how to pray the Holy Rosary even better. In 104 episodes, over 4 seasons, we will explore a method of how to say the Rosary the way Pope St. John Paul II, Pope Paul VI, and other Rosary advocates recommend, and that's by contemplating the mysteries while we say the Our Father, Hail Mary, and Glory Be. This podcast is based on the book Beyond the Veil, Contemplating the Mysteries of the Holy Rosary, available at Lazada in the Philippines and in print or Kindle on Amazon, wherever you are. Visit kindlingspress.com for more information and where you can read and download the episode guide. This is episode 48 of the series, the 20th episode of Season 2. It's nice to have you back here listening in on how we can pray the Rosary the contemplative way. Today, we'll start with the first of the glorious mysteries, the Resurrection. I can't believe how time flies and we're on the last leg of Season 2 already. In this episode, we'll look at the pattern of how our Lord allows us to unload our problems before He does something about them. And we'll explore 2 occasions He does that. Before that, let's do a quick review of what has happened so far before the resurrection. Our Lord was hastily buried before the sunset on Friday evening. Since Saturday was the Sabbath, there was no movement on that day, but we can imagine Christ's apostles and disciples grieving. Early on Sunday morning, Mary Magdalene and Mary of Cleopas rushed to the tomb. They brought with them spices to finish what wasn't done 2 days before. Now let's put ourselves in that scene. Let's put ourselves in the place of Mary Magdalene. She and the other Mary arrives at the tomb and sees that the tomb was not just closed, but it was covered with woven ribbons that had official seals on them. How, she thinks, how will she finish the burial rites of her Lord if the tomb is closed? Even if she could open the tomb, it was sealed. The reason the Romans sealed it was to make sure no one could steal the body of Jesus and claim He resurrected, as He kept saying that He would. Just as Mary Magdalene was thinking about this, an angel appears. We might imagine it dressed in something that was as white as snow, and its exposed parts, its face, hands, and legs, are glistening like precious stones. The angel effortlessly rolls back the stone that closed the tomb, and as the stone rolls, the earth shakes beneath it. The Roman guards who were stationed there are paralyzed with fear. They just stand there watching what was happening, their eyes and their mouths open wide at the incredible sight happening in front of them. The angels tells the women, "Don't be afraid, I know you are looking for Jesus, but He isn't here because He has been raised, as He said. Look inside." They peep into the tomb, but there's nobody there. The angel tells them, "Go quickly and tell His disciples and Peter that He has been raised from the dead. He is going to Galilee where He will meet them." The women, who were probably still trembling with fear at what they had just experienced, ran to tell the disciples, who were still probably hiding. We can imagine they got together in the upper room because that was a meeting place before and after Christ's resurrection. The women go to Peter and the other disciples and tell them what they saw and what the angel said. Sadly, their faith had not yet accepted that what Christ said about rising again is literal. They can't believe what the women were saying, so they wanted to see for themselves, and so they ran to the tomb. John arrives first, but allows Peter to go in the tomb first. They see that it was indeed empty, and that the cloth that was covering Christ's head was neatly rolled up in a separate place. If a thief did this, or if Roman soldiers took the body, they wouldn't have taken time to tidy up the place. Another probability is that maybe our Lord, when He traveled with His disciples, would roll up His things and tuck them away neatly in a corner. And John probably remembered this and understood our Lord had truly risen because He tucked away the clothes the way He would always do. Peter, John, and whoever disciples or apostles that were with them go back to the larger group, but Mary Magdalene stays behind. She stays outside the tomb, crying. As if still in disbelief, she looks once more inside the tomb, and this time she sees 2 angels in white. Each was on an opposite end of the stone slab where our Lord was laid. It was impossible for her not to think of the Ark of the Covenant because that's how it was configured. 2 cherubim, one on each end of the cover where God manifested himself. The angel asks her, "Why are you crying?" Mary answers, "They have taken my Lord, and I don't know where they have laid him." It seems she still hasn't understood that our Lord had resurrected. She still thinks some people have moved the body. When she turns around, Jesus is standing there. He prevents her from recognizing her, which is another feature of his glorious body. This and the other post-resurrection appearances of our Lord have an otherworldly feel. It's obvious that this isn't the same body. I mean, it's the same body of our Lord, yes, but it doesn't have the same properties. If he came back with the same body, that would be merely a resuscitation, as if he were cured in a hospital or medical care. But because it is a resurrection, his body is now a spiritual body. It can prevent others from recognizing him. He can go through solid doors. He can move to a different place effortlessly. Our Lord, still unrecognized by her, asks, "Why are you crying? Who are you looking for?" This is the same sentence structure our Lord uses on his first disciples, Andrew and John. He asked them, "What are you looking for?" Our Lord is ready to give. He knows what we need, but he always gives us a chance to be childlike and ask or tell him what we need. There was a garden in Calvary, and it would seem Christ's tomb was in that garden, and so Mary thought Jesus was a gardener there. How wonderful once again that we are brought back to Eden when God makes Adam a gardener when he is told to take care for the plants. Mary answers, "Sir, if you carried him away, tell me where you laid him, and I will take him." Jesus then calls her by her name, Mary. And in that instant, she realizes it's our Lord. It's interesting to imagine how she recognizes him. Was it because his face changed appearance? Or is it the way that he said her name, that it felt like he knew everything about her wrapped in a single word? If we put ourselves in the place of Mary Magdalene, this encounter must have been so otherworldly. First, she doesn't recognize him, and in another, she does. It would seem that Jesus can will his face to be unrecognizable. It doesn't seem like a function purely of his divine power, because during his life, people wanted to stone him and throw him off a cliff. He could have used his divine power to make himself unrecognizable, but he didn't. It suggests that the ability to be unrecognized was a feature of the glorious body after the resurrection. The same thing happened on the way to Emmaus. Two disciples were conversing with our Lord, but he prevented them to recognize him. In this way, they were given the opportunity to unload their thoughts and feelings to our Lord, and that gave him a chance to explain that the Old Testament writings point to him. The interesting thing that happened on this road was that the two disciples invited Jesus to stay with them at their house. This would mean that the two disciples, one of whom is named Cleopas, were living together. It suggests that the other disciples could have been Mary of Cleopas, his wife, because nothing in the gospel hints that the two disciples were both male. It is only when our Lord performed the breaking of the bread that they recognized him. Just like what happened with Mary Magdalene, it would seem our Lord gives us what we need after we've believed, instead of giving us what we want so that we may believe. He gives us a chance to tell him what we're feeling, the things that are troubling our minds, before he does something about it. It might be nice to spend a couple of beats thinking of these two scenes. I know these are long scenes, but we don't have to fit everything in one rosary. There are times, for example, I like to concentrate more on Peter and John, and another time I concentrate on Mary Magdalene, and another time on the two disciples who were on their way to Emmaus. I imagine different scenes in different times I pray the rosary. As we think of these scenes, as usual, let's find the face of our Lord. How does he look when he is unrecognizable? Does his love still show in his eyes and facial expressions? Let's also study the faces of the apostles and disciples. Let's find what they are feeling through expressions in their faces. That's it for this episode. Let's pause here and pick this up in the next 2 seasons. Don't forget to like this episode, click the subscribe button and bell icon so you'll be notified when the next episode drops. As always, this podcast is brought to you by thecatholictalks.com and kindlingspress.com, where you can read more articles on the Catholic faith and find more books on Catholicism. This has been Joby Provido. I'll say goodbye for now, and please join me again next time when we can learn to pray the Rosary better. Bye-bye.